Vici Gaming now stand on the verge of their first win in over 340 days. They are so close. Of course, they did drop out in the LPL Spring 2017, so they were gone for 6 months, so you can subtract about 180 days from that. That being said, it's still been a very long time since they've actually taken the win, and LGD, they have got to put a wrench in the works. They cannot let themselves fall to this team if they want to try to continue their momentum up.
It's been a long time coming. Just like Easyhoon says in the teaser, every time people don't pay attention to the sweat and the tears that make these things possible. He personally did not take a day off of Chinese New Year, stayed in Shanghai and practiced with his team, and we are seeing the results of that. And I think what the thing we have to compliment Easyhoon with, because with Swift coming into the roster, we actually had this discussion. Was Easyhoon going to drag Swift's pace down with him like he did with Crash? Or are there actually going to be an okay combo where Swift can pick up the pace in the early game and give them some more aggressive plays? It does look like the later.
Yeah, and where we have seen Vici find that success is when they're able to control the tempo of the game. If they can prevent the enemy team from responding appropriately in the situations that Vici present to them, it becomes a huge challenge. And LGD, they're pretty strong with tempo and snowballing themselves, but coming back from behind has never been a strong suit for them.
Yeah, and even though LG, they really had their moments where they have these hectic mid games and they take out good teams like Rogue Warriors, the problem is it comes at a very high cost to their own laning phase. They're one of the teams that lose the most towers by 15 minutes. I believe it's 2.73. So a lot of times when they're getting these leads in roaming and grouping because they don't have a laning phase anymore. Yeah. And that's not a good foot you actually want to start on. And if you play against more controlled teams that won't feed fuel into the fire and just play the crazy grouping game with you, and they actually opted to drag out the laning phase and just play more a normal and tempoed style, then LGD don't have much to go on, and that's been their problem.
Yeah, and that's where you look to LGD sort of falling back on, I hate to say this, the old crutch, that pure chaos style of just, you know what, we're just going to group 5 mid and see if we can find a kill. Oh, look, we got one. And then they just keep on doing that over and over again until they get back into the game. But when you look at the likes of Vici's lineup, nobody's really going to fall for that. Martin and Caveman have been playing pretty safe. Easyhoon is always the mage mid laner who sits nice and far back. And Meow and Swift, they're pretty conscientious. They seem to be communicating well.
If you watched how Vici played the game out in Game 1, they were actually very happy to let Easyhoon just sidewave push and continue to scale up. It's not their style to go into the fights with these other LPL teams. Sometimes it's been to their benefit, like this time. Sometimes it's been to their
detriment.
When the other teams can group up and punish them. But when LGD falls so far behind in the early game, they no longer have the ability to do the later.
Well, we'll have to look at those laners individually, right? Because we've got Yuuki coming into the mid lane against Easyhoon. He did not put up the performance that we wanted to see against him.
I really want to see what else Yuuki has in the bag, because they've just been straight sticking him onto Talia every single game. The game plan pretty much is you can roam and follow up the crazy team fights that POL is going to initiate. That's been their game plan, but they really need to have a second unit. Vici pretty much called them out. They said, okay, you have a global composition. What else do you have? And for like the basic way of how you beat Vici is you pick a team that outscales him. Because they're pretty much the Jin Air of LPL. They're going to play that 50-minute game with you if you let them. Stock up on their Gathering Storms, pick the Caitlyn, get a good late game team fight, and I don't actually think, like, on a personnel level, Vici are even that good in the late game team fight.
Well, I mean, we're certainly going to see if that's the case, because, again, we were talking a little bit about the likes of that Gathering Storm in the LCK a little bit earlier in the green room, but Vici, if any team in the LPL would be happy to take it to the late game, you've got to look at them, and you've got to wonder if LGD, can they bring something new? Do they change the strategy that they've been effectively sticking to for nearly 4.5 weeks?
Yeah, there were so many times in that game 1 where I was telling you they should just roam warp the Sion into the back of the enemy team, because that would be what Snake and a team like IG would do. But no, Vici have to play until 39 minutes. That's their average win time. They have to stick to a clock, and they're just so slow and steady. Sometimes they get overrun by other LPL teams. But sometimes, if they get a lead in the laning phase, that just means they choke out the other team.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, it wasn't exactly a slow and steady game 1. Swift was doing anything but. He was looking for ganks all over the map, and that really comes back to the vision. The likes of Eimy and PYL working together to make sure that Swift can't sneak in on the likes of this Kha'Zix. Honestly, I'd be surprised if he could get that Kha'Zix again in Game 2, considering how it dodges the vision that LGD rely on.
Yeah, if PYL is not going to change his style or his champion pool, the only way they play the game is they have to think about how they get picks without giving up towers. That's the big question for LGD. If they can't do it, it's just going to be an uphill struggle.
It's going to be game over. You saw Martin on your screen right there.
Yeah.
Talking a little bit about playing against the opponent of Imp, and again, we've got the Season 4 World Champion against the Season 5. Imp is just... He was an exceptional AD carry, came to the LPL. 2015 was a great year for them, and then in 2016, 2017, he slowly started to decline a little bit more, and we saw the likes of him and PYL. You got your hand out. What are we going to say?
I just want to, like, the story for LGD, because they posted this on Weibo. They made an entire mini-series about Imp, basically in the house, and like a pool. It's a great mansion and stuff. But, you know, he's not attracted to that. He's sitting in front of his computer, and he's playing, and he's like, sorry to all the fans. I'm going to try better. I'm going to do better. And you're going to see the former glory return. And he really has to live up to his words, because they've got a new stadium. They got new fans. They can't let Hangzhou as a city be disappointed.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed that LGD can close this out and bring us to a Game 3, but our casters are now ready to get us into Game 2.
We'll have to see if they can pick up a win in front of their home crowd here today. But Vici, as our old mate Clement Chu over there likes to say, they want to take it to 40 minutes in the match. They want to take this one nice and slow, try and be the KT of the LPL. This is the LPL!
Jinoo.
Oh, Jinoo, that's right. This is the LPL. We don't allow that. It's not allowed.
See, it's perfect because it's Vici versus for LGD. So Vici are the Jinoo of the LPL. Guess who the KT of the LPL are? Always disappointing their fans, always letting everyone down. It's gonna be big LGD.
Oh, but they're going to try and do something here for us, because they're in front of their home crowd. They have been on a loss streak so far.
I just flamed teams across all regions.
Yeah, look, I'm trying to stay as wide away from that as I possibly can. I don't want angry teams tweeting at me after this. But still, LGD in front of their home crowd. They need to pick up a victory here because they've been on a loss streak. Even we said coming into the cast that, yes, they're on a loss streak, but look at their schedule. It's really tough. Vici are 0-9. You can't lose to Vici, who are on really bad form at the moment. But credit where credit's due. Swift has been able to bolster this team. They look like a rejuvenated squad coming into this match.
Yeah, and what's so important with Swift's success is how he was controlling Eimy in particular. So I would hope that LGD would actually give more priority towards Eimy, but instead it's a denial away from Easyhoon. And the reason why it's so important to control Eimy is because he is 37% of LGD's vision place. Now, LGD don't place a ton of vision, but Eimy places far more vision, or a vision share of responsibility, than any other jungler in the league.
Well, LGD tried to start by shutting down Swift with a ban towards his last played champion. Kha'Zix has taken off the table, with Camille and Galio hitting the bench as well. Zoe, Talia, and Tom Kench are the three bans that come out from Vici, which leaves Ryze, Jarvan, as well as Varus, the first three picks that come out from LGD. Vici pick up Sion, Caitlyn, and Azir, the Emperor of Shurima.
Yeah, and so far we're already starting to prepare an actual composition for LGD this time around. A lot of those champions work very well. Of course, the tandem duo of Ryze and Jarvan, that hard CC into the flag and drag knockup makes it so easy and applies so much kill pressure to the lane, which is why you see the Emperor of Shurima picking up that cleanse. He wants that safety.
And there's quite a few people who are incredibly scary on this champion. And the man who has a skin on the champion himself, Mr. Easyhoon, is no exception. Incredibly talented on the champion, going up against Yuuki's Ryze.
Which, hilariously, yes, Azir does see a lot of time spent on the ban bench, but Azir is not Easyhoon's #1 played champion. There's a reason why Ryze was the priority pick, and it's because Ryze is actually the priority or the most played champion for Easyhoon this split. Likewise, Ryze also has a lot of good windows to play across from Azir. Yes, Azir is going to massively outscale Ryze's damage, but post level 5, post level 6, Ryze actually gets the push advantage on Azir and can start opening up roam potential where Azir is locked down in that mid lane.
Well, Easyhoon used to be very comfortable being locked in that mid lane, but with the addition of Swift, we've seen him trying to move around the map a little bit more. Was very potent on the Ryze that was picked up last match. We'll have to see how he does on the Azir, but Nidalee gets locked in for Swift. One of his signature champions is going to come out and play on the Rift today.
And again, we have another siege composition set up from Vici Gaming. Martin on the Caitlyn, Swift on his signature Nidalee, and Azir Easyhoon. I mean, they're one in the same, synonymous with each other. So Vici, they are looking entirely for side lane play from Sion, but otherwise it is a siege tower-oriented composition.
And we get a Riven as well.
Oh,
that
God.
gets locked in for Jinoo into the top lane. Probably going to be against Meow, Sion, unless Vici try to swap things up. But no, they go for Alistar as their final pickup. The two final bans that came out from LGD again, trying to lock down Swift, forcing him onto this Nidalee with the Sejuani, with the Skarner. Yes, the likes of Zac are still available, but seems like Swift is going back to comfort in this match. Whereas Vici, they're looking to try and lock down Jinoo in the top lane, but surprise, surprise, he still has his comfort pick of Riven available.
Yeah, everyone is on their signature picks. Jinoo was a Riven one-trick for the longest time, as most top laners tend to be when they come into the LPL. Ray and the Shy, no exceptions to that. So Jinoo, also one of the few players that will flex the Fiora, so he's no stranger to playing carry-oriented top laners in a competitive setting.
And he's already picked up the Riven a couple of times at the LPL already, and was successful in picking up victories on the champion for LGD, commonly used as a counter into Gangplank, this time going up against Sion, who has been very popular globally in the current meta and just looks unstoppable in the top lane at the moment.
Of course, the biggest issue is yeah, we have seen Rivens being picked up, and they weren't used in the side lane. They were actually used as team fighting Rivens, itemizing a bit more defensively than the solo queue kill or see hero kill hero Riven that we often tend to run into our solo queue games. But by playing a more tanky 5v5 oriented Riven, it was about finding those big massive AoE stuns, which normally isn't really the game plans for Riven.
And potentially we could see Jinoo move towards more of that solo queue style, and so could the rest of LG, because so far this split, they've been looking good as 5 individual players, but not so much as a coordinated team. So perhaps if they do move towards the opportunity to try and win their own lanes, try and play their own style of League of Legends, that could benefit LG instead of playing more as a team here today.
Yeah, and you can see that written all over Imp's face. I mean, Clement was just talking about kind of the pressure that Imp is under, and if you go and check his solo queue, Imp is playing a ridiculous amount of League of Legends every single day, and there is a lot of high expectations and pressure on his shoulder. He's a world champion. He owns a title in 2 different regions, both in LPL and LCK Crown. And so, unfortunately, he set the bar so high.
He certainly has, and a loss here against Vici would not be a good start to the cross-conference play that LGB are trying to pick up as much victories as they can so far, but it has not been successful on a loss streak at the moment. They definitely don't want to fall to Vici, who are currently 0-9, but we are onto the Rift for the second match here. And again, Swift picking up Nidalee, that's going to be a scary pick for LG to go up against.
Especially for how dominant Swift was in game number 1. A champion like Nidalee is only going to reward that even more. We'll see what he started level 1. I assume it's going to be the W with the traps. Sometimes he'll start for the spear. But the thing is if he starts W, a lot of the Nidalees will like to get around, go over to the walls, especially if they get a strong leash, and place some early deep vision or some deep trinkets. But it's probably going to be a Q start with where he's starting. Stepping back, looking for the javelin toss.
Yep, starting top side of the map as well. We'll get a small leash from Meow, whereas Jinoo is already waiting in the way, trying to push up against, push up towards the top side brush. That allows Martin and Caveman to get a very early push down in this bottom lane.
And this is what I suspected happened in the first game, that it was actually a free trip to lane for Martin and Caveman to make sure that they get the initial push, put Alistar in a bit of a better position because he's not going to get punished at level 1 as hard, although it is a Braum, so it wouldn't be the worst case scenario anyway. But again, it's just about giving Nidalee that tempo and giving Martin a good safety net so he can start setting up strengths across from Imp and PYL.
All eyes on the top side of the map there. You can see Jinoo Aftershock on Riven, which has been plaguing solo queue recently. He's able to trade quite effective against Meow, forces him to use 2 ticks of the corrupting potion already.
Oh no!
He's got that Gathering Storm.
The Jin Air rune.
Oh no, we need to kick Clement off the desk. His prophecies are coming true. We might be here for a couple of days now.
But that said, he did say that Vici were going to win. They're 1 series out, so We'll see if they're able to clinch it. I do agree with Clement, though. I actually think this is the best case scenario for Vici to win because of how stylistically LGD like to play the game. But we'll see if Jinoo has something to say about that on his signature Riven.
Well, we saw in the bottom lane that Martin and Caveman were able to get an early push against Imp and PYL, but they shoved in fairly aggressively, so the lane was just simply reset. And no level 2 advantage was acquired by the Vici bottom lane.
But this is exactly where Vici want the lane. They don't actually want it pushed in. Yes, you can push it in and start chipping away with the Caitlyn, but if you want to open up kill pressure, you need to have the lane centered so Alistar can actually even engage. Likewise, if we're going to see kind of the similar trends from Swift that we saw in Game 1 and Game 2, Swift also wants that lane centered for Vici so he can get involved with that Alistar.
Well, a lot of people seem to agree with Clement as well, because 75% of the fans in China agree that it's going to be Vici to pick up a win here. However, it is LGD with a very aggressive dive going up against Meow, already at half health. That's going to pop his passive. He tries to flash away, throws the Q in the wrong direction. However, it's Jinoo that picks up first blood at the top lane.
But here comes Swift. We'll see if he maybe finds a return. He's actually stalking underneath Jarvan, trying to catch him back into the jungle.
Seems like he was not able to connect with his spear, but still trying to chase down Eimy. That one's not going to land either. Gets away with the flag drag combo.
And we've got in and out, boys. It was clean. LGD are on the board.
Picking up the first kill in this match, diving Meow on the top side of the map with the help of Jinoo's Riven, who has been able to push him underneath turret this entire match. And
the big fortunate thing is that Jinoo was the benefactor of picking up that first blood in the initial kill, so keeping the gold difference there and allowing Jinoo to continue to punish Meow, especially without his flash. It's always going to be dangerous to dive a Sion. He's got his passive that he can try to trade back with you. He had the flash available. Unfortunately for Meow, it didn't coordinate.
Bottom side of the map, Caveman goes incredibly aggressive against PYL, even uses the Ignite in that trade. However, Martin turned his attention towards Imp.
And like I said, this is exactly where Vici want the lane to be positioned, so they can punish LGD's bottom lane, which is what they've already started to do against PYL.
It's a good start for Vici in the bottom lane. Imp still holds a CS lead against Martin, but we'd expect that to change. PYL is going to head back to base, swaps out his summoner spell and is able to teleport back down so that Imp can keep up the pressure against Martin and Caveman.
But Imp and PYL do need to make sure that they're very careful with this window. Yeah, PYL teleported back into the lane and he does have some vision off to the side.
That's a flash forward. Caveman is able to lock down Imp. Headshot comes out from Martin as well. He's a sitting duck here. Tries to trade against Martin. Not going to be enough. Now PYL is the one that is in trouble. Still has flash available, but LGD lose the 80 carry.
So my point was, and I was hoping I would get it before the gank came through, is that PYL and Imp have this tiny window where they need to quickly shove the lane in and then make their back, because they're sitting on a ton of gold. But while you're that far forward against an Alistar, and without knowing where Nidalee is going to be, of course it's going to draw this giant target on LGD's bot lane. But because PYL made the teleport back instead of walking back to the lane, it gave LGD that false confidence that they could be there.
And it does give Vici a kill on the bottom side of the map. Keep play coming out from Caveman there. Tried to headbutt PYL into the spear. Was close to being successful there. PYL is not able to hold the lane exactly where Imp would like it, but still does a good job of allowing him to pick up majority of the CS that is left there in the bottom lane.
But already we have a very similar game number 2 from game number 1 in terms of Swift's presence being felt on the map. Difference is that the gold is being kept into the lane. So it's 1-to-1 currently, but it's a 80 carry with a kill to her name, and now a BF store completed, as well as a Riven with a kill to her name, and a, I guess it's a nice ruby crystal and a longsword.
However, Eimy's been doing quite fine himself for the side of LGD so far. We criticize him not having enough presence in the last match. He's been able to get the ball rolling for Jinoo in the top lane and allow him to be successful on this Riven thus far.
You can already see Jinoo's trying to peek in and get started over this red buff timer. Knows that Nidalee started the top side of the map, so every team knows exactly when that was going to be spawning.
They're trying to hunt down Jinoo, but he's made a cheeky move in towards that brush. Meow is going to face check, but the spear comes out as well. Riven's trying to run away from this.
He doesn't have any help.
Well, they found him. Sion uses the charge. Glacial Augment's going to slow down Jinoo as well. Swift's going to hunt him down, and Easyhoon slides on in as well. Flashes forward, throws out the ultimate. Can he jump over? No, he can't, but Eimy is here looking to try and lock down Swift. Ryze is going to try and use the Realm Bot to get closer. Eimy flashes over the wall. Yuuki follows through. He can't get it. Swift is going to heal up from the smite. Pops his stopwatch to stay alive. Meow is throwing the Krugs at them as well, and Swift keeps himself alive.
That was so well played from Swift. The fact that he got into the brush and denied the vision for the lockdown snare from Ryze saved his life and then extends it with the stopwatch there. Beautifully done from Vici to punish Jinoo's overconfidence.
Does allow LGD to get positional control over this red buff, but Vici are going to take that kill onto the Riven, who was already doing incredibly well on the top side of the map.
So yes, Eimy does get the red buff. That much closer to level 6, which is where the real fun will start with Jarvan, but I don't think Swift's feeling too bad about that one. He was forced to burn his stopwatch defensively as opposed to offensively. Here in the LPL, teams usually don't like to do that.
Whereas Caveman again is able to lock down Imp, puts the Ignite down as well. Spear does not connect, PYL sidesteps that, and Imp will flash away, but still good pressure coming out from Vici's bottom lane.
It wasn't just the Spear that wasn't connecting. I believe that was a Varus ultimate that went a little bit wide.
And so it's going to try and see if he can take a red buff away from Eimy here. Amy's going to flag Dragon, get some good damage down, but no knockout coming through. Swift is very aggressive. He does get tagged by Winter's Bite. Will jump over the wall back to safety.
Bet you wish he had that Varus ultimate. So it was a good recall from Eimy. He steals the red, he immediately backs, resets position, and immediately runs to his red. So just making sure that he had the complete denial across the board away from Swift, and a good second rotation 3 buff coming out of Eimy.
And allows him to hit level 6 nice and early as well. So he does have that window of opportunity to make a play for LGD.
And you can already see that Yuuki understands what that means, and both of them are starting to move down. Martin and Caveman need to back it up.
Vici were able to spot him out from a wall that was placed down at the ramp of the Raptor camp. So Vici are able to get away from that gank that was coming out from Eimy. Swift is able to tick level 6 as well, not as impactful as a Jarvan level 6.
Yeah, and that's what I want to talk about is impact. So, of course, the responsibilities are going to shift for these team dynamics. Swift is not going to be as impactful as a Jarvan once this is post-lane phase, or at least post-initial jungling. But on the other side, unless Jinoo continues to snowball this lead, of course, Riven is not going to be as impactful as a pick like Sion. And I guess I won't say she can't find the 5-man stand and she can't be great in team fights because we've already seen it in the LPL, but it's much harder to execute on than just being a giant massive Sion, pressing your R button and wandering into, 5 people and finding a giant decimating smash. So Meow's job, even though he's losing the lane phase, is going to be much easier to execute once these lane phases fall down.
I was curious to see what Jinoo is going to build towards as well. So far picking up the components of what seems to be a black cleaver. But afterwards, he could build more towards that team fighting route or start to try and split and push against Meow. We already saw that Meow didn't have the best of times against Gangplank when he was in the split push lane.
Jinoo does have one of the lowest kill participations of any top laner in the LPL, but he has one of the highest, or he's in the top 5 of kind of gold shares, DPM, and general kills. So a lot of his advantages are actually being built out in side lanes. If anyone is going to play that 1-4, that 1-3-1 Riven, because they also do have a Ryze, it probably would be Jinoo.
Well, Swift is spotted out again by the 2 control wards that was placed down by Vici, so they know that he's right here. PYL again sidestepping the spears that come out, but Swift is incredibly slippery and is able to jump back out again. Let's see if they can get towards him. They predict it right. Yuuki's not able to collapse on towards Swift, and Easyhoon rotates down to make sure that he's okay.
I don't know if that's a juke or if that's Yuuki just moving out of the way for Swift. Tried to cut him off in the choke point and just let the whole rest of the road wide open.
But Swift has been happy feeding a little bit, is still even on levels with Eimy at the moment, but has not made a big play just yet.
And this is what I was talking about earlier. Imp really just kind of sits very middle of the road in terms of his stats. But hold on, Caveman's looking for the engage, and he's found it.
And he jumps in, he flashes to get a max range, pulverize, teleports now into the bottom lane. They've been able to lock down Martin, good damage on towards the Caitlyn. Imp, he's going to go low as well, but stopwatch is used as Jinoo gets into the fight. He flashes forward on top of Imp's face, gets that first kill. He's still alive as well. PYL, you can't kill that man. He is unstoppable. Even Easyhoon slides down into the bottom lane. It's a 2-for-1 trade going in favor of Vici.
And this is what I was talking about. You name any high-ranking LPL carry, and a lot of the times, Imp's name will still come up, but no one is talking about Martin. Martin just used the stopwatch, Martin just used the flash, and Martin just made the play.
And so far, Martin and Caveman have been the success stories in this match so far for Vici, playing so well against Imp and PYL, who are household names in the LPL.
And Caveman is the guy that is starting it off. It happened in Game 1, it's going to happen in Game 2. Do not give this man Alistar, but now it's going to be all about Martin. Huge credit to Meow to make sure that he got the CC on Jinoo so he couldn't immediately just blast the Caitlyn out of the stopwatch, but just frame perfect play there.
holding on to the heel to the very last second as well. Everyone collapsed into that bottom lane, but all eyes were on both the AD carries, and it's Martin who steps up big.
And for the longest time, one of the reasons why Vici were relegated in the first place back in 2017 was their inability to find a bot lane that worked for them. Unfortunately, Xuan P and Endless, that rotating door of who was going to be the ADC for Vincent, never really worked out. But Martin coming over from Snake Esports, now joining Vici Gaming, seems to fill the hole that Vici have been missing for 2 splits.
And so far, that started off this game nicely for Vici. Is that although they don't have a massive gold lead for themselves, they must be feeling very confident after that bottom lane skirmish.
And I'm feeling a bit hypey, so we're just going to calm down, settle.
Well, however, Imp has been able to pick up a massive item for himself. Rage Blade is complete for Varus, whereas Martin went for the very early Berserker Greaves. Still does not have his completed Infinity Edge just yet.
But he wants to itemize towards that static Shiv rather than the Infinity Edge. If he does go for the Infinity Edge, it's because Vici want to group up and start team fighting. But again, if you look at their composition, it's all about sieging. If I was Martin, I would prioritize the static Shiv, so I would have the wave clear, especially because Imp does have that completed Rage Blade. You don't want to walk into a fight against that.
And that's the power spike that LG did not have in that last team fight. Could have been the difference, as it is going to be Eimy that goes aggressive against Swift. He's going to turn back into human form, now going to try and pounce away. Yuuki even realm warps over towards this blue buff. LGD looking to try and lock it down.
Because this is the thing, Vici still need to use a lot of their added mobility and then try to create you know, advantage or disadvantage fights for LGD. If they just run in 5v5 or 4v4, it's still a Jarvan and a Ryze. It's still one of the most powerful 2v2s. And if it turns into a 4v4 bottom, LGD, as long as they don't get massively outplayed like they did last time, their comp is actually just stronger right now.
And they're still playing to their strengths relatively well, LGD, and Vici understand exactly where they need to be on the map and who needs to be there. So we're going back into a very slow and quiet point of this match.
It makes the vision that much more important for Vici because they need to understand exactly what type of situation or skirmish that they're walking into so that they can win it. They need to know exactly where Eimy is. And you can already see Swift following him around, getting very deep, aggressive vision back into Amy's jungle, finding him out and pinging the danger.
Well, Eimy is now shadowing this bottom lane, looking to see if he can make sure that Imp and PYL stay safe and try and work around that power spike that Imp's been able to pick up. The rest of the team, however, Yuuki's been able to pick up his tier and has gone for the Abyssal Master. A little bit tankier on this Ryze. Jinoo on the top side of the map already has that Black Cleaver. Now has the Warhammer as well, so we'll have to see what he builds in towards next.
I'm waiting for the moment of truth. Martin started his back, but with Swift here, Caveman wants to go in. I just want to see what the first item's going to be from Caitlyn, if it's going to be Static Shiv, or if it's going to be the Eye Edge.
And don't let the sound cue, audio cue I should say, fool you there. Meow is just using his ultimate to get back into the lane on the top side of the map and try and stop Jinoo from getting any more damage on his top lane out of tower, but all eyes are on this bottom lane where everyone is grouped up.
Yeah, that could be what's pressuring Vici to be so aggressive here. If Meow feels like his tower is under siege, then of course Vici are going to try to make a play on the bottom side of the map to trade objectives before Riven gets the structure for free.
And teleports are coming back up shortly. We saw them both being used in that bottom lane skirmish between LGD and Vici earlier. But it is going to be Vici to work on this bottom lane outer turret. That is falling incredibly low. Even Easyhoon is trying to rotate down, make sure that this bottom lane stays safe. However, they try to turn this one on towards Caveman. Good headshots coming out from Martin. Caveman barely missing the pulverize there, but is able to lock down the support from LGD. Ultimates are burnt, but it's still Vici. They get that first structure of the match.
Really well done. Moving Easyhoon down, starting to rotate all 5 members, and then just taking the structure and disengaging. Unfortunately, it's just a Cloud Dragon, which you can see that Swift is going to pick up right now. 1v1, but still the start of another snowball for Vici.
You can already see top side of the map. Meow is doing perfectly fine against Jinoo now. Has the Frozen Heart, has the Ninja Tabbies complete as well. And the Corrupting Potions are keeping him nice and topped up, allowing him to trade effectively against Riven.
Yeah, and if Jinoo doesn't have any pressure on that tower, you know, is he going to have any pressure on the structure throughout the duration of the game? Is a 1-4 or 1-3-1 even a possibility for LGD at this point if they can't deal with how tanky the Sion is?
But both teams called a swap as well. They send their 80 carries to support towards the top side of the map. Jinoo will head back down to the bottom lane this time to face off against Meow. Both teleports are available for the 2 top laners.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. Very smart window, not only moving and rotating Easyhoon down towards the bottom side of the lane to give pressure to take the first tower, but doing it in the window when both the teleports down, knowing then that it was just going to be the 4v4. And that's what Vici have really excelled at in this series so far, is tracking acquiring all of the information and then just making the smartest calls with the information that they have.
We also see Vici getting a couple of power spikes for themselves. Nash's 2 is complete for Easyhoon in the mid lane. And Martin, he's gone for the Infinity Edge first before completing his static shift.
So what that tells me is that it's going to be a very aggressive fighting Vici. They still want to team up with Swift. They want to look for these skirmishes. That Martin is feeling confident enough that he can have the battle stats, have the crit there instead of the flat AD and the attack speed to push down structures faster. Now, what that does sacrifice is his wave clear. He's still against a Varus, so as long as these two AD carries match and it's just a 2v2, it means the lane's going to be a wash and he's never really going to get control either way. But maybe he felt the static shift wasn't going to be enough anyway and Varus would match it despite that, so he wanted the extra battle stats so they could start roaming down looking for skirmishes and picks.
They've also already been able to take down that first turret, so the lane control is not the biggest priority for them at the moment. However, everything has been focused around the AD carry and support so far in this match. They've also caught out PYL, who's going to flash on top of Martin's face. He gets away from Imp, who throws out the ultimate. Yuuki's going to teleport in as well. Everyone's trying to dive on top of Martin. The team is collapsing to keep him alive. Easyhoon even jumping as well. Martin finally falls and Jinoo gets that kill, but the damage has already been done, and Vici are going to be able to pick up this team fight. They're able to trade 3 for 1.
Yuuki is getting hard countered by brushes. That is twice now that he has lost the ability to immediately drop his damage output, use all of his cooldowns, because he loses vision of the target intended. And that slight delay, the difference of a second, means that Martin gets to survive that much longer, output that much more damage. I believe he also got a headshot directly out of that brush.
Felt like they were tunnel visioning on this Caitlyn once again. Everyone just wanted a piece of Martin in his team fight.
And it makes sense, and we talked about this, you know, if they have the Infinity Edge, it means that they're much more likely to look for the fights because they have the battle stats. There we go! Yuki's like, I just need vision! Someone place a ward in this bush so I could do something about Caitlyn. But that difference, the split second of not getting his damage output, means that Easyhoon is able to collapse and that LGD have been bitten off way more than they can chew.
Imp couldn't find a way into that team fight either after missing the ultimate and everybody from Vici rushing to Martin's side to protect him. There was no way for him to follow up in that fight. On top of that, Martin's able to complete his rapid fire cannon first. So yet again, opting not to go for the wave clear item of the static shift and moving more towards these team fight / chip-based damage onto these structures.
I just much feel that it's not worth it, so I don't mind it. Again, if you're against a Varus, you might as well have the extra damage and then just try to look for the crits to try to whittle him and slowly bleed him out of the lane.
And it's working quite all right for Vici at the moment, who are 7-3 in this match, close to 3,000 gold up.
Must feel that he wants as much range as possible because everyone and their mother is trying to just dogpile into that backline onto this poor guy.
Oh, Vici are making sure they try and keep him as safe as possible. They didn't save him in that last team fight, but they got their revenge, and that's pretty much all Martin would care about at this point.
Yeah, 3 people had to dive back there. Of course, he's still dealing with a Riven as well as a Ryze, so it's not going to get any easier for Martin here on out. But we do have to talk about how LGD's composition does fight, and it is reaching into that backline. You have the Jarvan, the Ryze, as well as the Riven. Unfortunately, they need to start doing it together. You talked about it, how individually LGD are high-performing members, but together they still aren't a high-performing team. And it's because it's kind of like high-fiving each other and taking turns. Like, okay, I tried the 1v2, now it's your turn. You go 1v2. Why don't we just 2v2, guys?
Well, I haven't found the opportunity to do just that yet. And Vici is still trying to create pressure on this top side of the map for Oscar, and Imp and PYL are stuck underneath their turret. Pressure coming out from Swift from the blue buff side of their jungle. And wave after wave, Martin's able to chip away at that top lane outer turret.
Yeah, the difference is that A, the Rift Herald's not going to be available because it's taken so long for Vici to try to crack this, and B, they need more than just the Nidalee. Unfortunately, Nidalee has not found the snowball that she needed, sitting 1-0 and 6. Not saying that Swift's not going to do a lot of damage, especially because he does have the Sheen, but he is a supportive-oriented Nidalee. Going for the Athene's build, he is there to boost over the Caitlyn. Of course, also has an Azir on his team, so he could use the Primal Surge and give the attack speed to Azir as well. But they need Easyhoon to crack that tower.
And you've got to think of the emotions that these two teams are going through at the moment. LGD, they're on a loss streak at their home arena. That's where they've played the entire split. Vici also on a loss streak, but now you've picked up a new jungler. You were able to get a very decisive game number one.
Shift.
And now in game number 2, you are ahead of LGD in gold. You have the plays. You know that you are winning this match. They must be feeling very confident. And LGD, they have to find a way to bring back their own confidence and get back into this match.
Yeah, they need to find a way to just reset the map as well as the mentality. There was the Easyhoon roam that I was talking about that was needed to break that top tier tower, and suddenly Vici back in control, now looking their eyes on mid lane. So what do LGD do here? Well, they need to group up and they need to start looking for the picks. They still have so much mobility, so much ability to just nuke someone into the back line, but a big issue is that they don't have any vision. Take a look at what PYL is doing right now. He's finally placing any sort of vision for LGD, but he's doing it all alone. He's lucky that Dragon is up, so he assumes that the enemy team won't be on that side of the map. But what if PYL ran into someone right there? That's a free pick right in front of a Baron.
And we were talking about that last match when Swift was on Kha'Zix of all champions. PYL was constantly burning his flash to get away from him when he was going for those random face checks. Nobody from LGD is backing up in this game either. Luckily, there's no Kha'Zix running around.
And don't get me wrong, PYL needs to be placing the vision because, again, with all of the added mobility, that's how they get the information to make the picks. The issue is that LGD are one of the worst vision teams in the LPL. There's a reason why when they do get picks, it doesn't translate into objectives, it doesn't translate into series wins.
And so far, again, this match has been all about Vici. Yes, LGD started the match well with a kill on Jinoo, but after that, it didn't seem like they had many plays left for them to make. Catching them out one by one. Big team fights going Vici's favor in the bottom lane, now the top side of the map as well. And after taking down these structures, again, we see such patient play coming out from Vici. They're not trying to force the issue. They're waiting till they know they can make these huge advantages against LGD and making sure that they don't throw the game in any way.
They're not gamblers, Vici. They're card counters. They make sure that they know exactly the circumstance and the percentage of victory that they're getting into. They know exactly what their win conditions are. They will be patient, they will plant their feet and wait for it.
Well, they're up against the house of LGD in front of their home arena. It's important to Vici to take this responsibility, especially if they want to pick up their first victory this split in the LPL. Off to a good start. Going to see where their focus is going to be next. No Rift Herald available as we're now 24 minutes into the match, but they're focusing around this mid lane outer turret.
And check out LGD's vision on the bottom side of the river. They finally able to secure all of that neutral vision, and it's created this pretty much ramp that Jinoo was sprinting up across, looking for a deep flank that is immediately covered by Vici. They flush him out, smoke him out, and start placing down vision. So they're creating the safety net around the mid lane so they can start pushing forward and shipping at that tower.
We've been giving a lot of a lot of compliments, I should say, towards Easyhoon, who's been rotating very well since Swift has joined the roster. Haven't talked too much about Meow, who's been controlling these sideways very well and constantly ducking into fog of war whenever Jinoo disappears from his lane. Adding that little bit of extra pressure for Vici as well in this match.
Oh, hold on, Caveman.
And they're trying to lock down Yuuki. He's run as quick as he can towards the Ryze, but he's popped his ghost and he's equally as fast.
But now back to Meow. Meow's an interesting player. When you look at him statistically, he sits really high up on kill share. He's one of the highest kill share top laners of any top lanes in the LPL. I think like there's 2, and that's someone like Flandre in front of him. So of course that makes sense. But if you look at like his CS, his damage per minute, they're one of the lowest of all of the top laners. So I was kind of trying to figure me out. I'm like, is he just kill stealing everything? Is that why his stats are so inflated? Or is he just, you know, finding these streaky games? And if you go and look at his past history, he literally just does kind of have these one-off, one-hit wonders of a games where he gets something like a Camille or a Vladimir, and he just goes massive. And that's what's really skewed his stats. So he's very much a feast or famine top laner.
But right now, he's not doing either of those two things. He's just playing this one nice and calm on the tank of Sion, and it's been a good facilitator for the team. LG actually looking for an initiation on towards Easyhoon. They don't get enough damage down, and they're disengaging quite successfully. Both the tanks in the front line for Vici are soaking up the damage. Jinoo goes to the back lines, gets good damage on Easyhoon, but he is still alive. LG are trying to collapse towards the rest of the members of Vici. Swift, he's able to take down Jinoo inside his own jungle, but it will be Caveman that falls next. They still have the tank of Sion available in the front lines. He's trying to retreat. Martin's throwing down as many traps as he can. Yuki's trying to hunt down this Sion. They're still going forward. Ultimate's coming out from Caitlyn, trying to chip away at LGD, and Swift is on the hunt, looking for Eimy. Doesn't get that final spear, but it's just a 1-for-1 trade.
That looked so good for LGD initially, and then Vici got the high ground, and the poke completely turned it around. LGD almost looked like they had the health bars to immediately turn towards a Baron, maybe not risking it because Swift was alive, but again, Vici disengage up into the choke point, lay down all of this poke, and suddenly chip and win the back half of the fight, transitioning it into a mid tower.
Vici was the team with the gold lead, but they get what they came for, which is mid lane out of turret, and the team fight was looking good for LGD.
And a big issue is how separated Vici are. So Easyhoon's not doing any damage right now. Martin had to go all the way around the corner, but again, it's the correct disengage here from Vici. The fact that they go up, find the high ground, they're into this choke point now, and LGD are forced to walk up through that choke point to try to chase them, which it's LGD, of course they're going to chase. They lose all their health bars and they're unable to make a play post-skirmish.
Oh, Caveman's been having a great game on the Alistar, being offensive for Vici. We saw just that he could be defensive as well, flashing on top of Jinoo, who was trying to make his way into the backline, getting that big pulverize to stop him from getting closer to the carries in the team, and allowed Vici the time they needed to get as much damage as possible. And speaking of damage, Rabadon's death cap already picked up by the mid lane Easyhoon. Meow, he's going to use his stopwatch there against Jinoo, who's still going for the dive underneath the bottom lane outer turret. He thought he could take them one down. Both of them still at half health though.
Yeah, and it's curious to see if Jinoo's going to continue to get more kill advantage on Sion. He obviously feels very confident enough to at least look for the dive there. But that's important, you know, if Jinoo can swing that lane open, then they do have the ability to play the side lane as, see ya, mate. That was fun. 8.2.
Ryze is still as slippery as ever, still has his stopwatch as well, so we can do that for free
I don't know,
at any point in this match.
In my games, he can't do that.
Yeah, but we are still on 8.2 in the LPL at the moment, so he can. Eimy looking to try and lock down Caveman. He's popped his ultimate, so a very tanky Alistar at the moment. Locked down by Imp's ultimate as well. Caveman is going to fall. LGD get the pick they've been looking for.
Feels like we've been fishing for that one for the last 7 minutes. See if they're able to transition into anything. Because the top wave is pushing against them, I have a feeling they're just going to have to use this to reset their lanes, especially with the threat and danger of both Swift as well as Easyhoon in Martin's range.
However, again, Vici are very patient. They know that they can't make anything off for a fight from Caveman getting picked. Instead, they move down towards the Infernal Dragon. Yuuki doesn't have teleport, and he's on the top side of the map.
Here comes Eimy, though, and Jinoo's underneath. This could be a pinch from LGD.
Martin's not here. Vici are only 2 members strong, and that's exactly where LGD wants to catch them, getting a kill onto Swift. They're trying to lock down Meow as well. Jinoo hopping and skipping and jumping forward, just like the cards that you saw from Swift last game, and slowly chips away at Meow's health bar. This should be a kill going over towards the Riven, or is it? Caveman's here to save the day. Eimy jumps in, will get the secure for LGD.
The flash being used from Eimy, and now it should be a free exit from LGD. Easyhoon and Martin are trying to see if they can find Jarvan.
Yeah, they've come down all the way from the top side of the map. Martin just walks into a wild Riven who appears from the blue buff, and LGD are charging forward. This is a huge mistake coming out from Vici, and LGD gets pick after pick after pick.
And it's almost like they don't realize how much damage Riven is going to do. Take a second, press tab. She is a full damage, I believe, Duskblade, Black Cleaver, Ghostblade, Riven right now. And she just picked up 2 kills.
That is a delayed ace that comes out from LGD. They took down Caveman as the first pick, then they went through the rest of the roster, then they end it with Caveman once again. Puts them ahead in kills, 10-9. The gold is now all tied up between these 2 teams, and LGD find the pick and transition it to a massive lead.
And the best case scenario is that it happened right in front of a tower, so LGD didn't even have to think about it. They just got the free objective. There was like paint by numbers.
And we talked about last match how this is where LGD want to be. Scrappy brawls that take place all across the map that allow their individual members to shine in those brawls as well. And Jinoo just one-shots him. Where'd the kitty cat go?
Okay, they can now officially play the side lane as much as they want. Jinoo, 6-3-1. That guy was 3-3-1 just literally 2 minutes ago. He has kill pressure on any member that he so chooses, and Vici have a massive thorn on their side. And you said it, Fish, this is all about the individual stylish members of LGD. When you give them that much gold, they will solo carry a game.
Well, top lane outer turret falls. Vici lose that, and LGD make their way towards the Baron buff. No jungler available for Vici means this is going to be an easy secure for LGD. Can they pick up that fight? Riven has a flank on the team.
But a 5v5, it still needs to be respected from Vici. But here we go.
Here comes Ryze. Good knockback coming over. Easy combos him into Caveman. Yuuki is one shot away from dying. Vici somehow turn around a 4-on-5. Imp is firing away in the front lines. Jinoo's looking for a way into the fight as well. But the alley-oop comes out from mid lane to support, and they turn it around.
Yuuki is literally running Uber Eats because that was a free meal to Vici as they've now got full priority over the Baron.
I need to order mine soon after this match. match, because if Vici keep playing this way, I'm going to get a heart attack from whatever meal they're serving. They're now moving towards that Baron buff. They're now trying to take down an objective. LGD have Jinoo in the bottom lane. Teleport is available. They have to now pull off a 3-on-5 to stop this.
And it looks like they're just going to let it go. As you can see, Imp and PYL are like, Wolf Camp? Wolf Camp.
But it is Vici to pick up the Baron buff for themselves, and this game has been swinging back and forth.
So what I was saying is that, yes, in the skirmishes, in the 1v1, and the 2v2s, LGD are still very strong. But in a 5v5, you must respect Vici. That is still an Azir who has completed his core itemization. He's gonna hit like a truck, and you make it that much easier for him when you just hand spoon feed. Like, here comes the airplane right into the team fight.
On top of that, Jinoo had a massive flank. It looked like it was just going to be a disaster for Vici when a huge Riven jumped straight into the backline with no protection, but nobody was able to set it up for LGD.
That Scuttle Crab was a bro. I don't know if you caught that fish, but that guy, like, flew in front of the spear.
Just making sure he protects Jinoo. Did not want Jinoo to die. But instead, he sacrificed his life. Gives some vision over towards Vici now. With this Baron buff to play 2.5 minutes, they can start making their way towards these turrets. LGD, they found a way back into the match. It's still fairly even between the two teams, but Vici are the ones that are making the aggressive plays now.
Yeah, and it's the different win conditions. We keep saying it. Skirmish, brawl, 1v1, 2v2s, isolated matchups. That's what LGD want. Whereas Vici, they've got the Baron. Their composition could not be stronger with it. It's still about sieging. So what they need to do is make sure that they have their flanks warded, make sure the Riven can't get behind them, and immediately burst out the Azir and the Caitlyn, and then just set up this slow siege.
But it is Vici now that are making the proactive plays. They already take down mid lane inner turret. Top lane and bottom lane inner turrets are left to be taken. But it just seems like it's fairly difficult for Vici still to break these objectives against LGD.
It's just about caution. So the most important thing that LGD can do, which is what they're doing right now, is cleaning out that vision. You can already see that they're placing a lot of their own control wards. They're popping their sweepers. They're making sure that there's not this vision on the flank. And they're trying to create little pockets for Jinoo to slip into. Because I don't know if they're going to trust Yuuki again for delivery duty. I think Jinoo's going to... He's like, it's fine. I'll walk.
Now, his license has been revoked. Now, if you take a look at Jinoo's build, though, he is going for pure damage. Normally, we'd say if he looks at someone, they're probably going to die, but I think if you look at Jinoo the wrong way in this match, you will die.
Well, it's not doing his team much good when he's dancing with Sion, doing the tango in the mid lane there.
And Sion's fairly tanky, already has the Warmonk's armor, as well as the Adaptive Helm and Frozen Heart complete.
And again, the biggest part of that is the fact that Meow then has eyes on Jinoo, so... even if the flanking vision wasn't set up for Vici, as long as you're able to just visually track where Riven is by looking at her, then you're free to have the confidence to tank a tower right there and force it down.
Well, Martin's got his full crit items complete, 3 Zeal items, including that Phantom Dance to reduce damage coming out from Jinoo and give him that 110% crit. And now looking towards his final item. Could be a Bloodthirster, could be the Mercurial Scimitar being picked up later on.
The nice thing that I like about the crit build is that it's still not necessarily all about the 5v5. It's not... I mean, you can plant your feet and just deal out ridiculous amounts of damage, but if you just find, you know, a single shot like that, suddenly someone is half health. And when you have an Azir, Caitlyn, Nidalee composition that just wants to sit and hit the towers, basically you need to just find those lucky crits or those occasional crits, and suddenly LG can't stand at the structure, have to disengage, and don't have the ability to go for a fight.
Doesn't help too much with taking down turrets as fast as possible. You need raw AD for that, but it does help with taking down neutral objectives like Elder Dragon, which is spawned now, already at 4,000 health. Jinoo is off on the side near red buff, but the rest of LG are in the river. Traps are being placed down by Martin. They get the first reset on Elder. Now 6,500 health. Eimy forced to flag and drag away. Vici try to restart this one. Jinoo's going to join the team on the back lines. Imp tries to start the team fight, locking down Sion first. Gets him down very low. That's the tank frontliner for Vici, who's forced to flash away. Jinoo has found his way to the back line. He doesn't jump on the wall. He uses the killer away, and Vici tries to start a fight. Eimy falls first. Now it's going to be Martin going to back lines. Jinoo with a big sweep, but it's not enough. The Riven has to use his own stopwatch to stay alive. He will fall. Martin gets the kill. Yuuki gets the heck out of there, all the way down to the bottom lane. And Vici will work towards Elder Dragon.
And that was all about the vision. Before that entire team fight, Easyhoon actually disengaged from the Elder, went and cleared out where that control ward right there is, and made sure that Jinoo had to walk all the way around to the other side to try to find the flank. He misses the Q, is delayed into the fight by 4 seconds. Vici sweep the fight, grab the Elder, and probably in the game.
Well, now they're trying to march straight down the mid lane. Eimy 13 seconds to put up a defense in front of the home crowd. LGD need this one. So do Vici. 0-9 in the LPL at the moment. This could be their first victory. Only one Nexus turret is left standing and not even a support available for LGD as PYL falls to Easyhoon's damage. The Emperor of Shurima is looking for more blood. Only that final Nexus turret left standing. They've caught out Martin. He takes quite a bit of damage there. Forced to use his own heal, and that could be the retreat sign for Vici. LGD live to fight another day.
And that almost feels like the perfect symbolism for LG. The fact that their captain, their shot caller, PYL, just gets obliterated right in front of the gates of the Nexus. LGD, I mean, they get another opportunity because Vici disengaged, but I think it's just size all across the board.
There's a 6,000 gold lead for Vici as well. Martin, he's completed his bloodthirst, so he is now 6 items strong. Here's that fight again. Jinoo could not find the flank, and Vici just piled on in.
And again, look where Jinoo is right now. He has to come back into the team fight because he missed his Q over the wall. He wasn't able to get the flank. But the reason he was there anyway is because he couldn't flank from the other side. Vici, again, their flanking vision. So many control wards set out to the side, seeing that Riven from a mile away.
Martin as well was stepping up around that red buff with the rapid fire counter, with Caitlyn's rage, throwing pot shots at Jinoo, making sure he constantly chipped him down whenever he could. But he missed it. He swept his way all the way to blue buff, undetected. And that final Q just betrayed him. The jump over the wall could have been the make or break difference in that fight. Now with Elder Dragon available, just a little bit left of that for Vici, but they've already broken the base of LGD. They're looking to try and do it again. Baron buff's coming up in 30 seconds. Seems like that's the objective they're going to play around for now.
The nice thing is that it's only a single inhib down for LGD, so they can very freely leave their base. They will live to fight another day, and it's another opportunity for Jinoo to find that redemption, to get the big, massive flank that his team needs. And it's not just Jinoo, you know, there's multiple tools and resources that LG have on this comp. They can still utilize the Jarvan ultimate, they can utilize the Ryze ultimate.
Caveman's an angry cow, jumps straight in, finds Jinoo looking for the lockdown with the chains, doesn't have it. Instead, they turn back around towards Sion. LG trying to get as much damage as they can. He charges straight away from that fight.
Vici trying to time this with the mid wave, although it's not big enough to really be a big concern for LG, and I think they're going to come in and try to fight this one.
Traps to be placed down by Martin. Jinoo's looking to try and jump over the wall, but they burn through it so quickly. Vici pick up the second Baron buff of the game.
And LGD giving a lot of respect, realizing that if they die there, that would be the game. So instead, they're going to plant their feet and say, it's fine. We've only got a single inhib down. We're just going to try to minimize the losses, try to survive the Baron, and live to fight another day.
Now pushing towards the top side of the map. Bottom lane still has that outer turret available. Minions are pushing in favor of Vici. They have a nice stack there. So they're going to work on taking down this top lane inhibitor turret, which takes so much damage from the headshots that come out from Martin. He's placing down traps once again. Turret falls. LGD collapse trying to protect him. PYL takes a lot of damage from a couple of auto attacks. Again, Martin left untouched. Slowly chips away at the inhibitor, and a second inhibitor falls for Vici.
And this means it's going to be an easy decision to just 5-man stack with this Baron, flood in from the mid, flood in from the top, and then siege the last remaining 2 towers standing for LGD.
Jinoo tries to clear out the bottom lane of minion wave. That was a massive stack that was going in favor of Vici, but they just showed they don't really need a big minion wave to push through these turrets. Martin is just so strong, takes down these objectives so quickly, and LGD, they need to throw the Hail Mary soon, because Vici are going to collapse through the rest of this base.
Where is it going to be? Are they just going to run front to back, utilize Yuuki and Jarvan? Are they going to let their last inhib fall? Is Jinoo going to attempt another flank to see if it works for the 5th time? 5th time's the charm?
Or are they going to just let every single structure in their base fall? Because that seems to be the current plan coming out from LGD. Inhibitor turret falls. Inhibitor is a couple of auto attacks away. Martin just has to step up, and he does, takes it down. PYL forced to retreat towards the fountain as well. Vici are slowly moving towards this Nexus, waiting for all their minions to collapse. There's nothing left standing except for this turret, which is already at half health as well, just from minion damage.
But classic Vici, they've got 2 super creep waves coming in. They have the ability to Baron buff them. They say, no, Swift, top lane. You must have all 3 waves flooding in clean.
Now it's Caveman's job. He's moved into the mid lane to pull the minion waves a bit faster here. Martin chips away at the turrets again. PYL throws down the ultimate just to delay minions from taking down this Nexus turret. Doesn't matter. Rapid fire cannon is up for Martin. He gets that extra range. He snipes down the turret. Nexus is bare. Vici are 1 win away from picking up their first series win in the LPL, and they started a team fight. Easyhoon shuffles into the back line. Martin's able to take down Jarvan. Jinoo's trying to do everything he possibly can, but it's just not enough. Pops his own GA. Yuuki gets revenge in the mid lane. First casualty for Vici, but Jinoo falls. Only the carries left alive. Only Ryze and only Imp, who's trying his hardest to fight this one out, but Martin stands and delivers. Vici have done it. It took them 10 straight series to find a win, but they finally get one in Split 1 of 2018.
And 300 days later, Vici finally find another win in the LPL. And classic, Easyhoon himself falls, as does LGD's Nexus, zoning off all of LGD to finish off the team fight, finally stepping up and doing exactly what his team needs him to do, which is be a team player. They
brought in Swift against TOP. That wasn't enough for Vici to pick up a win. They weren't able to do it earlier on in the week either. However, this time round, finally, Vici pick up their first win in the LPL for this split. It's against LGD in LGD's home arena. And that losing streak continues from LGD. They didn't start the split strong. Looked like they were finding their way back into it with some crucial victories. And we said that they had a difficult schedule. This was not meant to be one of the games.
Unless Vici have redefined the ceiling that they once had, it seems that Swift has breathed a new life into Vici, and whether that is simply just better communication, better synergy, or even that veteran, intangible experience that a player like Swift will bring to a roster, the morale is there. Vici can feel it. We can very clearly see it, and all of that hard work over the course of Chinese New Year has paid off.
It's not just the morale, it's the teamwork that we're seeing coming out from Vici, working together, Swift and Easyhoon, making sure they play around the top side of the map. Swift as well working with the bottom lane duo, and Martin and Caveman really stepping up as well. We mentioned time and time again, this is not one of the household AD carry names that we hear about in the LPL, like Uzi, like Imp, but they played so well today.
And it's also the fact that, yes, Vici do have big names like Swift and Easyhoon on the roster, but when you think about Vici Gaming, they're not one of the LPL teams that are defined by their superstar status or these superstar names. When they find victories like this, it is simply because they are playing that very smart, intelligent, clean, almost Korean-esque style League of Legends that you don't normally see in the LPL. Now, Swift is definitely shaking that up and trying to give Vici a bit new flavor, but you can still see the old Vici there, calm and steady, playing it clean.
Swift is able to provide them with the early game advantages. We saw that from the Kha'Zix, we saw that from his plays on Nidalee, but still, when it came down to a Nexus turret that had about half its health remaining, a 10,000 gold lead, Baron buff, a 6-item Caitlyn, they still waited for the minions to push into the base. They still waited for that final moment, the last straw for LG to win the match before they close out the game.
They're the professors of the LPL. They've got to play it by the textbook.
Well, they have been doing that for quite some time now, and with that, Vici have been able to pick up their first victory in this split of the first split of 2018.
What year is it?
Oh, well, I don't know what year it is anymore after that much, but let's send it back to the analyst to tell us what year it is right now.
I have no idea.
It's the year of the dog.
That's the one. Year of the dog.
Yeah.
It was just 2 weeks ago, Fish. Anyways, Vici Gaming, I'll be Clement. Wow. What a prediction. 0 and 9.
I called it.
You got the prediction.
Yes, I knew they were going to win this set because stylistically they were really good. They were really good going into LGD. And the reason being that is LGD, even though they have that great mid game, a lot of times they can't close it out. They're not a very clean team, so you get chances back into the game. But first things first, let's talk about the draft phase a little bit. I really like LGD's draft phase a lot better this time. If you look at the third pick on the blue side, I was calling this for game 1.
Yeah.
I was calling it, please pick Varus, so you actually have a winnable lane in the bot lane, and this is exactly what they did. They still got the Braum on the last pick as well, so that would turn out fine for their bot lane. They should have done that. And you also see that Riven into Sion, that's actually a decent matchup for them. So LGD, right off the bat in the ban pick phase, they start out on a good foot. But what happened is they threw it.
Tragically, they just weren't able to keep up with that early laning phase. And though LGD did try to come back with some chaos during the mid game that they are so well known for, Vici Gaming just kept their cool. The professors were like, all right, this is on page 17 of the textbook. If we turn to chapter 2, we can see that we win the series.
Yeah, there's 2 specific instances where LGD could have snowballed harder. They're winning the bot lane, overextended, got caught by Swift. Jinoo winning the top lane, goes into the enemy jungle alone, gets caught out again. So those 2 big events really changed the way the game shaped up. It really turned from LGD being able to find 5v5 skirmishes and winning them into Vici being able to play a siege game because their Caitlyn was ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we heard it from the casters. Martin was on fire during the end of that series. The bottom lane outplay with the stopwatch before flashing away outside of the vision.
Good.
Coming this close to dying to Imp, but it turns out he actually had heal the entire time and was using the heal to bait LGD in.
Yeah, just the mechanics for there. He avoided the explosion on the Blight stacks and also the Q from Riven at the same time. And I was just like, oh, my mind is
so close.
And then he kills him.
You got to wonder about the mechanics in those situations, right? Is he just mashing stopwatch like they're teleport? I'm going to get one auto attack and then get out.
It was very calculated on the timing, like when he was going to avoid like the Blight stack pop. Because that was huge. That was like 6% of his health, and then the Riven coming in as well. That really turned the early game from them. So just great play from the bot lane of Vici. And I also have to think like Fish was hitting on this over and over again during the game, but Alistar. Caveman's Alistar, he blocked so many Eimy engages and also the Riven engages. And we just have to kind of go back to the way Vici were winning the games, because we talked about, okay, so LGD, good draft, screwed up early game, gave the sieging game into Vici, and Vici really ran with it. They sealed off so many flanks. They weren't able to get into the backline at all from LGD. And like Riven, you could see Jinoo had nothing to do.
He was trying so hard. Goodness help him.
Yeah,
he was looking for those big fights. I believe it was at the Elder Dragon where he tried to get around behind them, and it was a bit of yakety sax because he ended up behind them.
Oh,
and then he misses it.
Yeah, he does miss the. I believe that was the Q1. So I guess he was stacking up for the Q3, but the fight was happening too fast. Basically, they weren't coordinated enough, and he had to come back from the other route again, and it was just too late. They were going in one by one, basically.
Yeah, and
we call that dumplings.
Dumplings 1 by 1.
Yeah, because you don't want the water to cool down too fast, so it's called dropping dumplings in Chinese.
Okay, we'll have to investigate these dumplings a little bit more after this breakdown. But still, Vici Gaming, they keeping their cool, putting their faith in Martin. Easyhoon with some really big damage numbers, returning to his Azir at this point. We can't really call it anybody else's Azir because I mean he's the guy, and still showing up big with some massive team fights for the likes of his team. I believe it was the Shurima shuffle to knock away Yuuki and Eimy was to LGD, I have to imagine, the emotional nail in the coffin, right?
Yeah,
you find it, you've got the flank, you can absolutely do this, and then they're dead.
LGD got an extended ace, and then they try to deliver to the back line, and then they got caught out. So that was a poor play by LGD, but overall, I do think the problem with Eimy right there, I do have to call him out on this, I don't like the way he built. So he basically built a Knight's Vow and a Iron Solari. And what you should build in that situation is you actually should go Guardian Angel and Gargoyles, because that way if you go in, you can actually come up back again and like sustain more and get more chances for Jinoo to actually get in the backline. But the build he went for, like Knight's Vow and Iron Solari, are like short-term shields and then a move speed buff when you go back out of the fight.
Yeah.
So it's a cheaper build. It's a build that people do a lot when they're really starved on gold, but it's not an effective build in that type of situation. What you really want to do is you want to go in, die there, come up back again, stay there as long as possible, get your maximum amount of CC up, and allow Jinoo to get some fights in. Because Eimy just disappeared every fight.
Yeah, and of course, if you contrast that with the likes of Vici, Caveman taking that Alistar, he's actually going to take our man of the match. He didn't have to worry too much about these items because he had the Unbreakable, and he was still doing huge damage.
You can see the sign here. That basically means slick in Chinese, like very well played. And he really won the bot lane for Vici, and he also denied so many of Jinoo's engages. It just can't be understated how much Caveman really shaped the game and just stonewalled the advancement coming from LGD.
Yeah, just being a huge linebacker. But to come back to that build conversation with Eimy, it seemed like LGD as a whole seemed to lack foresight in the duration of this series. In game number 1, they didn't pick the Varus, they picked the Braum first. In game 2, we're looking at the build for Eimy, we're looking at the Jinoo. Then he's going for an assassination style Riven instead of more of a team fight style Riven, knowing they're up against Vici, who are going to drag it out. Whereas if you contrast that with Vici, like we said, they had the entire game mapped out from step 1 to step 10, where they closed out and destroyed the Nexus.
And the thing with Vici that really surprised me was that they were very bold in allowing LGD to initiate on them. They still hit the towers and they didn't back off. They knew LGD would initiate and they knew they could outplay them as well. And that was the big thing that I think Vici really grew, that they were able to stand their ground and know that they could outplay. That's not something that they were very confident about doing before.
Yeah, you were mentioning that practice that Easyhoon did. It must be doing wonders for him if he's able to stand his ground against the likes of LGD. But now we've got our updated standings with Vici Gaming taking the win. That puts them at 1-9, their first victory of 2018, though tragically still barely in last place just because they have lost one more series than TOP on the other side. LGD across from them now stand at 3-6 in the standings, and with the results of our previous games, OMG at 2-6 in 6th place and Suning one step closer to separating from the middle of the pack between RNG and Jingdong.
Yeah, I really like the standings so far because the only teams that we really have question marks left are for OMG. Like, what are they actually doing? What are their identity? What were those, like, player rotations today? But for every other team in the LPL, they have their identity. They have their style they want to play. And it's so interesting to see them butt heads against each other.
Of course, as we get closer and closer to the playoffs, it's important to also know how these teams are going to lock down that final 4th place spot. Tomorrow, we've got FPX going back up against LGD, a double header for Imp and PYL and the crew. And then just after that, here in Shanghai, we've got Invictus Gaming versus Eyeboy, the two prodigy AD carries clashing on stage for the first time.
Number 2 in the West and number 1 in the East butting heads in our final matchup. That should be our game of the week. I don't know what any else would be, and it really does come down to two teams that play around their AD carries. Hype matchup there.
Well, have I got some news for you, Clement? It is, in fact, our game of the week. So we are hype as heck. It's going to be super awesome to see Jackie Love and Eyeboy clash. I mean, Rookie and Scout is always a fun matchup too. Pretty much, we could just hype up every lane one by one, and it would be pretty fun.
Yeah,
but
it definitely would.
Still, it's going to be a pretty fun day. Of course, that being said, Vici Gaming with their first win, finally taking some momentum for themselves. A little bit off the back of Swift, a little bit off the back of Easyhoon, a little bit off the back of Martin. Could we be seeing a new era for them?
They definitely could have a surge. I think they could probably overtake FPX at this point if they try a little bit harder and Swift continues to not get killed by the Raptors in early game.
Ooh, a bold statement indeed. And in that case, looking ahead towards tomorrow, Invictus Gaming versus EDG.
Oh, this one has to be more in favor of IG. EDG are coming out off one of their worst losses in the history of the team. 0 kill series over 2 games and 0-0-0 stat line both games for Scout as well. Their problem really is if people can shut down their jungler, what can they do? Because they've had such a rough time. Like, Flawless is one of the best, but Haro should have more impact in the game rather than just like dying level 1 in the enemy jungle very early on. That really kind of set the pace for the game, and they're gonna have to do this against Ning. The contrasting styles about these two teams is that while IG is a very scrappy team, EDG are on the high end in terms of like assist to kill ratio. They are a very strong 5v5 grouping team. So that's going to be the clash. 5v5 or kind of like just skirmish.
Of course, when we saw them just a few days ago playing against Rogue Warriors, we did see what seemed to be, how do I phrase this, an emotional breakdown for the team in that game too, which led to, as you said, the 0 stat line for the likes of EDG. And IG isn't exactly an easy team to play against.
Definitely not. So this is a series where, like, if Clear Love was going to come back, this would be it. This would be about time.
Well, we'll have to see if that's going to be the case or whether or not. But again, that's happening in just under 24 hours. That being said, though, we're done with our games today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.